This is a Ben Frank Connection presentation.
What is going on, everybody? We are back for another episode of ABJ Presents Not Cool in High School Horror, episode 123, Evil Dead Rises, with my buddy Charles Moran. We have the YouTube memberships up, so currently our highest tier member is Freak a Maniac, who is the world champ over here. And there we are. There's my beautiful face. I want to quick say thank you to all of our other subscription member holders over on the YouTube side. So let's start with some of our tag team champions. Lily Rodriguez from Witchcraft by Lily, James K from Addictively Speaking podcast. I hope I said that right, because I think I fumbled it. Then we have our mid-card championship holders: James M, CJ, DM, Andrea, Adam, Inspector Todd, BR, Stephen Chambers, Devin the Tribal Chief, Anastasia, Austin, Raz, Ryan Vox, Kai, and Adam the Guy, and Pete DeLong. So thank you all so much for your support and keeping this channel afloat and doing that over on the YouTube side. That means a lot to me. It helps the community grow and this content keep moving. So we want to welcome in our guest here in one moment, but make sure you check the links below, not only to support ABJ, whether it be on social media, merchandise pages, or anything like that, but everything from my guests will be down there too. If you're listening to this on the audio side of things, this podcast is available on all podcast platforms. A 5-star review goes a long way. Leave a review what you thought of the episode. Spotify does have a little ask a question, like what did you think of the episode? Put them in there, and if people start leaving reviews, I'll read them on the chat on the next episodes of and recapping of what people thought, and I will keep them based on the theme. So if you do it on a Not Cool in High School Horror, I will keep the reviews for Not Cool in High School on that. So if you don't listen to the wrestling or whatever, I know we have a lot of variety of different topics. I will keep it based in that realm. So if you're someone who supports a lot of the Not Cool in High School horrors but not the wrestling, I will group you into that horror fandom unless you bounce around. Also, this is live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and X. So the live chat is open. I will be reading comments and stuff like that. My moderators are out there, so leave some comments and some feedback as we're going, and we will incorporate you also into the podcast. But without further ado, let me bring in my guest, Mr. Horror Prince himself, Charles Moran. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, Anthony?
Oh man, I'm super stoked for this. I'm doing great. Yeah. So you're I kind of said during the Courtney episode, you and Courtney are like my perfect muse of like a human, because I can drink craft beer with you. We can talk. Everything that we're all into is the same shit, like comic book, nerdydom, video games, pro wrestling. Everyone has that thing, but not many people have the pro wrestling notch. And then you and Courtney have that pro wrestling notch. So it's like horror and pro wrestling. Let's chat and drink beers all night long. Normally at Pilgrim Grove.
Yes, hanging out there. Good place. Great beer on Center Street in Pottsville. Our Thursday night hangouts. We have one this Thursday too. Pro Wrestling Club.
I miss everybody there. I can't drive, so I just do my Thursday nights and just make content.
Well, we will be waiting for you whenever you're able to come back. You know.
Yeah, that means a
love
lot.
You.
So before we get into the episode or anything like that, let's talk a little bit of Horror Prince. What started this company? Why did you start it? What is Horror Prince if people don't know?
So Horror Prince is my merchandise brand that I take around the country to different conventions, and I also do some client work that's associated with that. But generally, it's everything that I create and release, whether it's a poster, a T-shirt, sculpture, anything like that. But in the past few years, it's kind of morphed into a new thing where I'm creating like toys and things like that. So it's a lot of fun. And it's, with that, I can work with comedians, bands, venues, promoters. I've been doing it for about 15 years now. And it's a lot of fun. I love doing it. Love
Yeah.
connecting with people and striking a nostalgia bone in people where you can associate with people. Oh, my cat's meowing. Where you can associate with people on a personal level through mutual appreciation of things.
Yeah, you kind of have that fandom, and then you bring everyone closer together with art and
Absolutely.
your fandom.
Yeah, you
I
bring
own
a
a
bit of
print
your
of
own
yours.
creativity to it.
Yeah,
Yes,
I own a print
it's
of
fun.
yours. It's the Exorcist one. I begged you
Oh,
for months
yeah.
and months and months. I finally got it off you.
Yes,
I
yes.
own your it's behind my Camp Crystal Lake flag that fell, but right behind here
Okay.
is my fightertainment poster that you made. So you made a cartoon version of a wrestling event, which came out fantastic. I got the entire roster to sign it. It's one of my favorite
Great.
wrestling. You also have some art that I'm obsessed with that I will own one day if you ever re-release it. But your Warriors one, where it was
Oh,
like that Jim Lee Batman, where it was like all the
yes.
villains busting in on Batman and he's fighting everybody, but it was like a giant collage of like a Warriors fight.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite images I've ever done.
Yeah,
It's
it's
I
so
I
good.
I absolutely love the Warriors. We're actually in the 45th anniversary this year of the movie.
So I know we
If
talked off camera about a movie we're gonna do horror wise, but I think we're gonna
Yes.
jump over to the non-horror side and do a Warriors episode.
Come out and play.
Such a I, here's a question. Do you
Yes.
think that if somebody of a director or a producer was willing to do it, would you mind if that was remade?
I don't mind any remakes really.
Yeah.
I've grown over time to appreciate them because I have the original. However, I don't know how they're gonna do it. New York is not the same. Where
Hmm.
else are you gonna do it? Are you gonna do it in LA? You gonna do it in Philadelphia? I think you could do it in a different city, a different like you could tell a different tale. I think that may be what would happen.
Yeah.
With how they produce things in Hollywood now, like that new Roadhouse. Like just from the trailers, I haven't watched it yet, but just from the trailers, they're working with some clay that they had before.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. But so let's kind of pivot here and get into The Evil Dead. We talked a little bit beforehand. This is a movie franchise for both of us. We are very fond of. It's something we're both very, very passionate as you drink out of your Army of Darkness cup. Very, very apropos. Um,
Yes.
you said you got into this much later in life when you were older and found out about it. The franchise
Yeah.
fucked me up since like I was a kid. I remember going to my aunt's house. My aunt and uncle were very big into horror movies, and I remember seeing it and the girl sitting Indian style, laughing and just like it scared the shit out of me. And then as
Yeah.
I got older, I was like, oh, this is horror comedy. This is a classic. I love it. Um, it was redone later on around I think like 2000s something around there where they remade it. I love the remake. I thought the remake was fantastic.
Okay.
It made me wanting more. After the remake, then we started getting the Evil Dead TV show, which was really good, and then that
Yeah,
kind
it
of
was.
ended on a cliffhanger, and we didn't get anything past that. Thank you so much, Sierra. Sierra's becoming like the Not Cool in High School fandom here. I love it. She's been here since
Heck yeah, Sierra.
the Courtney episode. I appreciate that support.
Thank you,
And then the
Sarah.
TV show kind of ended flat where it didn't give us what we wanted. We got a video game, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, that
Um,
video game is so good.
yeah,
That video
and
game is so good.
and now we have Evil Dead Rises. So let me kind of set the picture here. So this is a Evil Dead Rises came out in 2023. It's a American supernatural horror film written directed by Lee Corn. It is a standalone entry in the fifth installment of the Evil Dead film series. It's based on two estranged sisters trying to survive their family from deadites. This is in the light of it starts off in a certain way and then it ends up back at the city's landscape that we'll get into. It was written and directed and produced by Lee, but also I'm having a brain fart. Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi,
Sam Raimi, yeah.
are involved in production and stuff like
Okay.
that. So they're not writing and directing it, but they do have their hands in it. Which is interesting to think about as the movie goes on. And I want to kind of talked about that in a moment, but it runs for 97 minutes. Its budget was 15 to 19 million, and box office it made 147 million. So it definitely made its money back. It wasn't a insane success, but it was still, I believe, a success nonetheless. At any point in time in this movie, without getting too much into it, did it ever feel like it wasn't a Sam Raimi Evil Dead? Do you think it strayed too far away, or do you think it stayed in a nice realm? But it's still like the director still like I feel that the director had a lot of his own input, which I think was good, but I still think he kept it good enough to stay in the realm of Evil Dead.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Actually, the with this, I've only seen the trailers for this. I've actually not seen the whole movie, but I know, I think it's I'm confident that if Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi were involved, that they're going to have that same style and approach to a lot of the creation, a lot of the design that you'll see or probably saw in the Zombies or Deadites. But yeah.
Yeah, so we'll kind of set the page here. Like I said, the opening scene does set a really good tone to the movie. The girl they're out on the deck, and she's they're out this cabin or this lakeside thing. Guys flying around on a drone, and it starts off with that Evil Dead shot where it looks like evil is coming. And it looks like it's flying through the air. It comes flying down into the lake. Girl sitting on the dock reading a book, and it looks like she gets almost hit in the face, and then it pans away, and she almost gets hit by a drone. So it's a drone shot, but it's actually a guy flying a drone.
So tongue in cheek.
Yeah, very tongue in cheek.
Nod.
So it has that Sam Raimi evil coming shot,
yeah,
but it's actually a drone. I'm like, oh, this is a cool drone shot. Oh, they're doing the evil, but it was tongue in cheek. And she makes a joke saying, "You're gonna scalp me with that fucking thing. You need to chill out." And he's like, it won't even get that close to you. Relax. And he's like, have you checked on? I'm not good at character names. I'm trying to get better. This is my first review where I tried to memorize. I don't memorize characters. The first time I watch it, I take in the experience, and you have to sell me on the character for me to remember their name, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Especially at least for a first time watch through. That's just who I am as someone who intakes movies. If it's a turn off to people, I'm very sorry. I will work on it. I'm still trying to find myself as a movie reviewer. But yeah, so she goes in to check on her friend who's sick. They gave her some drugs. She's out cold. She goes in to check on her. She's in a bed by herself, and she's just like, all right, kind of talking to her, but she's passed out, and she's reading the book. But as she's reading the book, the girl starts reading the book to her, but she's not looking at the book. And her friend's like, what the fuck is happening? Turns back, the girl's sitting in the bed with her back to her, and she's reading the book without even facing her. So like the demon, she's possessed. Yeah.
Are eyes white yet?
Nope. She falls out of bed. No. You don't see her face. She falls out of bed. The girl goes over to inspect her. And when she does, she starts foaming at the mouth. She's like, oh my God, she's having a seizure. She's trying to work on her. As she's checking her heartbeat, eyes open, she's a deadite. Grabs the top of her hair and scalps her. So
yeah.
I
love when you get lines like that early in the movie. You're like, how's this going to happen?
Yeah.
They're going to do something with it. They're not just, that's like an obvious plan.
Yeah. Scalps her, but it's not as bloody as you think it's going to be for an Evil Dead. So like in this opening scene, I was like, oh, maybe they toned back a little bit on the blood, because I remember in the remake, they were trying to set the record for most blood used in a scene. And they tried to do that with the raining blood scene in the remake.
Yeah.
They were trying to set like the new record for most blood. So when this one came out, it was very, not a lot of, and I was like, oh, not a lot of blood. So the guy's at the dock, and he's back at the dock where the girl comes up and her head's ripped and she's freaking out. There's a chaos ensues. The deadite girl comes out, grabs the guy. They fall into the water, and the head comes flying out of the water. And then she rises
the
above.
Scout? Wait, the scalp or the
guy's
head?
The guy's
head. Okay.
Then she comes rising out of the water. Opening scene, Evil Dead rises. It cuts away and then goes to the apartment where everything else is going to take place after that. So the entire time you're thinking is, what the hell was that whole cabin scene for? And now why are we at this apartment in I'm guessing New York. It doesn't. I don't know. I might have said the city once again. I wasn't really paying attention on the location, but it's in a city. Let me check here real quick to see if they ever say what city that this takes place in. I don't think they make it a big deal to say this city. I'm going to be honest.
Anywhere America.
Yes, somewhere America. If you know in the chat, put it in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sets up a lot of questions of like what's going on here. And one of my big notes was not very bloody, which is interesting. Once again, it cuts back to a bar and like a band, and this girl's in the bathroom, and she's sick, or she's contemplating. You can't tell if she's drunk or high or whatever it may be, but she's in like, it looks like a CBGB bathroom. She's like sketched out. Someone's banging on the door. She's like, "Give me a minute."
Not the kind of place you want to drop your keys.
Yes, very much so. They said Lily says Los Angeles. Appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you, Lily.
Lily killing it. But she's taking a pregnancy test, and you end up finding out through this scene that she's a guitar tech in a band, or she's a guitar tech for music. So the guy's kind of like, "Where's this one instrument?" She goes, "It's here. Go check it out." Cuts back again after you find out she's a guitar tech and she's pregnant. Cuts to another scene of this apartment building with this lady, Ellie, who is a mom of 3, a son and 2 daughters. The son is old enough to drive and take a car and go what he has. The daughter's maybe a little younger than him, and the youngest daughter is like really young, like 8, 9 years old, which is interesting because I don't remember a scene at all in Evil Dead, maybe in the TV show, maybe, but I don't think they ever really incorporated children in an Evil Dead movie.
Not even Army of Darkness, not like in the castle somewhere, not a child running around anywhere.
I mean, if that's what I'm saying.
Maybe that, but not a character.
Something in the background, but not a main play character. Because it's a kind of a horror trope that you don't really mess with kids.
No. I remember that when I was a kid, I would always tell my parents that. I'd be like, "No way, Michael Myers does not mess with kids."
Yeah,
he would have killed. If he did, he would have killed those kids, but he didn't. He just wanted to kill his sister.
Kids are usually safe in horror movies.
Same thing with Jason. Jason Part 5, A New Beginning. It's not really Jason, but it's Jason adjacent, and it has I think it's Shavar Ross. That is the actor that plays Dudley from Different Strokes. That's in that one.
Yeah.
He's like the star of it. And Jason doesn't really, the Jason imposter doesn't hurt him the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, we're not saying it never happens. We're saying statistically 9 times out of 10, kids are sacrificed or saved.
Freddy kills those freaking things.
Yeah.
He'll kill kids.
Yeah, kids are not safe with Freddy, but not even like on camera. He never really slashes apart a kid on camera. There's not intense. It's Evil Dead is known for dismemberment, blood. It's crazy, and for kids to be involved in Evil Dead, I remember seeing the trailer and I was like, "All right, they're stuck in an apartment building with evil. How are they going to pull this off?" Like I actually, when I seen the trailer, I was like, "Okay, it looks really scary, but how do you film a possession movie at the level of Evil Dead?" In a apartment complex in a major city, and then also 3 of the 5 characters are children. It raised a lot of like, how are they going to pull this off as an Evil Dead movie?
Yeah.
Am I going to like it or not? So yeah, we get to it, and then we're getting a feel of the family. They're a quirky family. They're very artsy. The one kid's really into music, and also kind of like his aunt. He loves music and DJing and stuff like that. He has his own turntables. The little girl's kind of in the arts and crafts. She's cutting the heads off dolls and putting them on sticks, and she's making horror print crafts. You know what I mean? She's a little Charles. The the other daughter is also very artsy too. Like she has the artsy short haircut. Like it sets a table of this, and they have very dark humor, even as like the youngest to the oldest. Like they're very self-aware. They're not like your typical white, like blue collar family. They're more of like they have a fun dynamic as a family. You end up finding out. Actually, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but they're setting up the apartment of like the kids are wrestling and fighting and playing with each other, and the little girl has scissors she's not supposed to, and she slides the scissors under the table, and you're like, they're showing us way too many sharp objects
Yes.
in this opening scene. Like,
Yeah.
they're going to be used soon.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Like, framing the shot for when she's getting chased by a deadite, running up
Yes.
to the object, trips, falls, sees the scissors, grabs them, turns around, stabs it in the eye, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So scissors are shown, and there's a scissor scene. Not like that. I mean, that's a whole different style movie. The stick that she uses to like play, they wrestle and they fall to the ground, and the stick snaps, and then like it has like now a jagged edge to it. You know what I mean? Like yeah. So they're setting up tools and weapons in this opening, like fun-loving scene.
I love it.
So let's see what we got here. So the sister shows up. The sister's name is Beth, the girl who's taking the pregnancy test. She shows up. There's a little bit of a scene where she knocks and she hides and then scares her sister. And she's like, and there's like a dynamic where the sister kind of doesn't respect her art, doesn't respect the fact that she keeps calling her a groupie, but she's like, I'm not a groupie, I'm a guitar tech. And there's a little bit of disconnect there. They have some family turbulence between the mother and her, and maybe they're not so close with their mom anymore, but the sisters are kind of tight, but there's a little bit of like disapproval above them a little bit, but they still care about each other. She just finds out that Ellie was just recently left by her husband of 3, and she comes back to kind of tell her she's pregnant, but she doesn't yet because she kind of hears Ellie's bad news and she doesn't want to like add it to it. And Ellie was trying to contact her, but she wasn't answering the messages. So she's like, listen, when you're on the road, you don't even worry about me anymore. So there's a little bit of that dynamic of like maybe some friction in the family. She ends up finding out that they're moving, so they're in the process of packing stuff up because they have to leave where they are because the dude left the kids. As this is going down, the kids leave to go get pizza, so they go drive away. The oldest son takes the car. They leave. They're in a parking garage, and an earthquake happens. So they come back from the pizza. An earthquake happens. It does make sense. It's LA. Earthquakes all the time. Earthquakes not too much in New York. So
that's just a terrible place to be.
I've never been in an earthquake. Have you ever experienced an earthquake?
Once.
Scary?
A few years ago, there was an earthquake out west, and for some reason, we got, I guess, shockwaves or what I don't know the correct terminology.
Yeah.
But we experienced that here in Schuylkill County.
Yeah,
I was sitting in my office in Pottsville, and I was like, started vibrating. I was like, what the heck is that? But that's as close. That was nothing. That was a minor tremor compared to what those people. But could you imagine being in a parking garage when that happens?
Yeah.
Like, that's got to be frightening.
Lily says, never been in an earthquake, but tornadoes are no fun. So I was part of a tornado in Schuylkill County up in Hazleton when one hit like all the factories. The factory that got hit the worst was the factory I was inside of. Oh. Terrifying. It was terrifying.
Oh boy.
Yeah, not cool.
That does not sound cool. It had to sound like
that's a whole nother story for another day. But yes, so as they're in the parking garage, one of the things they allude to in the parking garage is a wood chipper. So once again, we have been seen with scissors and a broken wooden stick, and then somewhere in the basement of this apartment complex is a wood chipper. So once again, if you're paying attention to the movie, Evil Dead horror movie, sometimes they plant those Easter eggs. They're like, remember that's there, and I wrote that in my notes. So there's the earthquake happens, and a hole opens up. Another thing I'm remembering now earlier is when the whole family was talking about where they lived, they talked about a ghost of a bank teller who used to live there who hung himself, and that if the ghost of the bank teller, if he hears coins in your pocket, he will kill you or scare you to death to take your coins. So they live in an apartment building that used to be an old bank, but there's spookiness to said building because there's like a tail. But so a hole opens up in the parking structure. The kid looks down and sees it's an open bank vault, and he's like, we're kind of broke. I'm going to go down there and check it out. Maybe I can save the family and find some old money or artifacts that could be worth something. He goes down, he starts rooting around without kind of looking or paying attention. There is some aspects of like religious stuff laying around. If you're really paying attention, he starts going through a box, like all the deposit boxes. Nothing's really in there. He opens up a huge box, and in that box is records. So he takes the records because he has a turntable set. He's into it, puts them in his pocket. But as he's sifting through it, there's pictures of like priests, and they're holding stuff, and they're like, it's very like religious stuff. He hears a noise, turns around, jump scare, a giant crucifix almost hits him. So there's a giant crucifix in this room of Jesus, with bloody Jesus on it, a whole nine. This bank vault is now in religious territory. So he goes around and opens up another thing, and it's a big room, and it looks like a casket, but it's busted out in the bottom. So he opens up he takes out the cloth inside this casket. It's moving, and it's covered in like locust bugs, and they start flying all over the place. And he has found the Necronomicon. Evil Dead fans know
I'll swallow your soul.
Yeah, he fucked up. He's fucked up. He has found the one thing he's not supposed to find. The book in this one, it still has the bound of human flesh, so it stays true to that. So I do have a replica Necronomicon from the original. The new one doesn't have a face. It's a lot bigger, but the spines of it looks like a Venus flytrap. It looks like it has teeth. And when he is toying with it, something or one of the teeth or something cut him, and when he goes to like look at his finger, a few drops land on the front of the book. The blood soaks into the skin, and the Venus flytrap opens, and he's able to page through the book.
Ooh.
He takes all of it up to the apartment building, and so the fun thing about this is they take the elevator back up. And the mom yells at them for taking the elevator, because at this point she's freaking out. The kids are going to get pizza. They haven't come back. There was this giant earthquake. Where are they at? The kids come to the elevator. Everything's cool. But most apartment buildings, or buildings in general, don't have a 13th floor. This one does.
Yeah.
And they
foreshadowing.
live on. Well, it's interesting they took the elevator, because that plays into it in a little bit here as well. So he takes the book into the thing. It opens, the whole nine, and the older sister gets an immediate vibe, slams the book shut, and says, "Stop fucking with this. Some things are not meant to be found. Leave it the fuck alone." And it kind of moves away. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing in the apartment. The kid now is playing with the records, and he can't get them to play properly. So he's Led Zeppelin them. He's playing them backwards, and he's spitting them with his finger.
Oh boy.
So the first record is essentially this guy who, like a priest, and it's a recording of like a room, and he's telling everyone, "I found this book of the dead. Maybe we can use its powers to figure things out and understand the evil of our world." Da 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 da. You hear people in the background like, "It's the book of the dead for a reason. Leave it alone. Burn it. Bury it." Audio. He changes the record. The second record is the man talking to himself about the book and how they've been translating it and trying to figure it out and trying to do what we can do with it. And he's like, "Well, this is what we transcribed, and this is what we started to find out about the book." And he's like, "I will read a passage aloud." So he starts reading it aloud, which is once it's read aloud, you essentially have woken up the evil. The evil is now alive. When he reads it aloud, the kid gets freaked out and stops his finger from like playing it, and evil has taken over. They're playing it now. So he can't control it. He can't stop it. And as this is all going on, the demon realm is like, now we get that camera shot where something is moving around. Ellie is in the elevator. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember why she was going to the elevator. Just for a quick thing, but she gets hit by this unknown force, and it drives her inside the elevator. Doors close, and she's trapped. It's messing with her sanity. So we talked about on the last horror one that this laundry. Thank you, Sierra. She's doing laundry. She's going to the laundry room. Oh, we lost Charles. I'm sure he'll bounce back in a second here. So she's doing this bit where the trope of Evil Dead. So when I like to watch horror movies, I like to break down or almost give the entity, the demon, whatever it may be, a character sheet. And then I try to like determine it by a character sheet. So when you watch the Evil Dead movies, obviously there's a lot of rules to the Evil Dead. And one of the biggest ones when it comes to how the demons get you is either they enter your body, whether it be means of SA. So in the original, a woman is taken advantage of or assaulted by a tree and it sexually penetrates her. We'll leave it at that. So some stuff like that has to happen or it messes with your sanity to the point where you lose your sanity. And then when your mind is completely broken, it can get into you that way as well. So the interesting about this movie is we kind of talked about it with Courtney as she gives a little side eye. This movie doesn't rely great for this because there's kids involved. There's no crazy demonic sexual entering of a human in this movie. So that aspect, if that's triggering to you, and if Evil Dead is something that a reason why you kind of stay away because the tree scene fucked you up, you're safe with this one. So no really trigger warnings when it comes to that. But she's getting messed around this elevator of an unseen force. It's beating the dog shit out of her. It's throwing her all around this elevator shaft, and she starts getting tied up by all the cables, and she's not having a good time. It cuts away at the last second when you think maybe something does happen to her, and the power goes out in just their apartment complex, which is weird because the power goes out but emergency lights are still on. This is where it kind of got me a little bit in the movie, where power goes out and like certain scenes there is power on certain lights, but then like we have no power. And then like they talk about cell phone service, but then cell phones work here and there. Sorry, that's just me. If there's anyone else who watched it that was picking up on stuff like that too, I was like, all right, it's emergency lights. It's fine. We can work with it. Courtney says safe and sound inside your apartment, essentially, unless the house plants were beastly. Yes, very, very, very true. Well, the book does have a Venus flytrap element to it. So the kids are back at the apartment. They're trying to figure things out. They're looking like, oh, the rest of the city's on. We just don't have power. So I don't know what's going on here. And as they're kind of talking, there's a back shot of like the front door behind them, and it slowly opens, and Ellie's silhouette is standing in the doorway, and she is very much possessed. I forgot to put this up too. Spoiler alert. This contains spoilers. Yeah, so she's standing in the doorway, definitely possessed, definitely spooky scene. It sets a tone of like, fuck, man. They're gonna Evil Dead these kids. These kids are in an Evil Dead movie. This goes against everything that makes you feel comfortable in horror, because once again, kids are usually not the victims. Yeah. So the apartment door opens. She kind of comes in and she walks to the stove and she starts cooking. But when she's cooking, she's just throwing eggs in there, not breaking the shells. There's shells in. She sets the fire like a gas fire, and she's like, and everyone's like, what the fuck's going on? And she's mumbling and not really making sense. She's not coherent, and she's kind of talking to them and telling the story. And then she says a line of like, I wish when you guys were at that point. Sierra says, I don't know why I got so upset for her wasting so many eggs. Yeah, it was a lot of eggs. She's like 3 dozen eggs were thrown in that pot, and then she just throws them on the floor. But she makes a line of saying like, at that point in time, I wanted to cut you all open and live inside your bodies. And and she starts laughing menacingly, but her voice is still good, if that makes sense. Evil Dead really has that voice changing aspect where if the demons talk, it's like multiple voices in one person, or has like that guttural bass. And yeah, so it kind of she's bouncing back and forth with the family psychologically, where she's struggling with her actual self and the possession. And she has that moment where she falls out to the ground, she vomits everywhere. And right before she passes out, Ellie looks at Beth, her sister, and says, don't let them hurt my children. And she done. I thought she passed out, but they think in the movie she's dead. So they pronounce her dead. They put her in their bed. They're trying to figure things out. They bring over the neighbors who are part of this. The neighbors are essentially saying like, yo, they go to the stairwell to get out. They're like, all right, let's just take the stairs. Let's go figure this out. the stairs have completely collapsed. There's no more stairs. So they are stuck on their floor, and now the elevator is broken. So this is how the movie kind of traps them in an apartment complex, but also keeps it contained to one floor of said apartment complex. And I guess it's LA. It's a shot. There's like the earthquake, there's noises. It's a loud city. So certain things don't, I guess, register with people in a bigger city. Cause a lot of stuff that goes on here that you're like, nobody said anything or no one made any complaints. But once again, this is self-contained to thus just the 13th floor or whatever floor they're actually on. No cell phone service. That really can't call for help. Honestly, never understood the whole stairs thing. They were on the 14th floor at the end. They were, yes. So I think, yeah, something like that. It was really creepy. It was really, I couldn't really pinpoint if they're on the 13th or 14th floor, but the stairs thing was, I guess, their way of saying like this is contained to just the one floor of the apartment. And Chuck is back. All right, Charles is back.
Sorry,
You're good. You're good.
The greatest. If it happens again, I'll try to get back on, but this computer isn't the greatest. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're working through it. We're working through it. So Ellie is possessed. They try to get their way out.
Where are you at now?
So Ellie's just got possessed in an elevator. She dies, and they're trying to find help, but the stairways has collapsed. So now they are contained to the floor of they're on of the apartment. Now you have introduced neighbors to the story. So there's a few neighbors, a guy with a few kids, a Spanish family, and then the creepy white guy who's just like, we'll figure it out, like a maintenance guy type guy. Also, they talk about a cat in this scene where like the guy's like, oh, my cat gets out. He goes up in the vents. We'll find him eventually. So yeah, so they're trapped. There's no cell phone business. The neighbors come over to be like, let's prayer. They do a prayer and they pray and things get weird. And the guy's kind of like, look at her face. She's all fucked up. This is weird. So they're like, well, let's find this out. There is a fire escape that we can get out of. But the only way you can get to the fire escape is if you go to this room. I think it's 82 or something like that. But the room 82 is condemned and it's boarded shut. So they're gonna get their tools. What they have of tools, because all his tools are in the truck. They can't get to the truck, no elevator, no stairs, and they're going to bust into room 82 and they're going to use the fire escape. And that's going to be their way to go get help to figure this whole situation out. So they start working on room 82 to open up the door. The brother starts to realize, I think I fucked up here. Something's going on. I think when that book happened, the mother has this weird demon look, and the faces of all the book are like looking like my mother, and he's really questioning his reality. Beth is now dead, and Ellie's kind of sitting next to her body talking to her sister who's dead. And she's kind of like, I'm so sorry. I can't believe that this happened. I don't know how to go about this. And as she does that, the phone rings, and it's a voicemail that she left but to Ellie, but instead of a voicemail, Ellie's voice is coming through, and she's like, you have to help me. I'm burning up. I'm trapped here. I'm on fire. I'm in hell or something like that. And then she like looks at the phone and she like hangs up and throws it. And then she looks and her sister's eyes open. Ellie's now alive. And now we're in full possession mode. The demons have taken over Ellie, and she says, what's going on? There's a few dialogues of like creepiness of like, Ellie's not here anymore. She's with the maggots now, or whatever it may be. Actually, I lied. That wasn't. So they take her. She's on fire. She's not attacking them yet. They take her into the bathroom because she's burning up and she's struggling a little bit. They put her in the ice, like the cold water. They put ice in the tub. She freaks out. And she like levitates to the ceiling, and she's kind of crawling around like a spider monkey demon thing. And this is when shit has gotten real, and they're fucked at this point. Like she is 100% in full demon mode, and all hell breaks loose. Let's see what we got here. The camera shots of this are crazy because it's showing like the different shots of her coming up to the tub, and she's like, mommy's with the maggots now, and they fight and they get her all situated. Yes, mommy's with the maggots now is what she said when she's in the bathroom. She stabs the one, like her sister, through a hand with a piece of glass from the bathroom. There's a huge fight. She knocks the Beth down, and she takes a tattoo gun and she goes across the oldest daughter's face with it. And then she goes, let mommy kiss it better. And she licks the cut, which in Dead Out world, that's not a good thing. If you have a cut and they At least to my knowledge, right? So in the Evil Dead franchise, they mix between possession and zombie, where it can be transferred via blood or transferred via like entering the body. How we talked about before, the old tree scene where a girl gets assaulted by a tree. None
Yes.
of that happens in this movie because kids are involved, and I think it was a cool trope to maybe not put in the movie because sometimes that is hard for people to see those in horror movies. That's not a thing we talked about earlier. But when she has a cut in the face and then the demon licks it, in my brain, I'm like, she's done. She's possessed.
Yeah,
It's over for her.
that's it.
Another trope they
Game
do
over.
a lot. Yeah, another trope they do a lot is they vomit. So like they'll cut you or stab you and they'll puke blood or whatever it is on you, and that's usually indication of you're probably in trouble. Like it's transmitted via blood or bodily fluid of becoming possessed, if that makes sense. Would you agree with that? Like an Evil Dead trope?
Yeah, that's definitely a trope. Is it Evil Dead 2 that an eyeball gets shot into the guy's mouth?
It happens in this one.
Oh, it happens in this one too?
It does. They do a shot of an eye. Yeah, so there is a callback to that. We're actually getting
That's
to
excellent.
right now. So they end up pushing her out of the apartment. And the the neighbor opens the door and he's like, "What the fuck?" And she runs, hits the neighbor. They fly out into the hallway. The kids slam the door shut and barricade it. And as this is going down, she bites the neighbor's eye out of his head. And then she turns to one of the kids and spits the eye into the kid's mouth. And he's choking on it. And then they kind of watch the rest of this scene of her just killing every neighbor on the floor through the keyhole. So you only see a panoramic shot of like neighbor here, mom kills him, blood, neighbor, blood, guy has a shotgun, shoots her. He thinks it's good. Something crawls underneath his feet, takes him off his feet, shotgun goes off. And she kind of comes up to the keyhole and she's like, "Let me in." And it's like, it was a crazy good shot. Probably cinematically my favorite shot in the whole movie. I just thought it was done really spooky. That keyhole shot. Like keyhole shots are like when you're looking through the hole in a closet, get me all the time because it feels like it puts you in a box. You feel, I don't know, it's very an insecure feeling. I don't like it.
No, I understand. Stylistically, though, I always remember anything I ever watched behind the scenes or heard anyone talk about working on the movie. They were always thinking about outside the box. Like the cabin, I think in at least 1 and 2, it has no, like if you look at a lot of the camera work, it has no ceiling to it based on the camera work. How you see like how the Evil Dead moves through the cabin and everything. So there's always camera work that is part of the thumbprint of the Evil Dead movies, like we were saying earlier, like the camera that tunnels through the woods, that a wobbly camera tunneling through the woods. It's become something that is a calling card of Sam Raimi's. You see it in the new Disney Doctor Strange movies.
Yes, Doctor Strange was essentially Doctor Strange Evil Dead movie. It was so good. It was so good. It's my favorite Marvel movie because it was done so like they made Wanda like a Deadeye.
Yes.
Like when Wanda's
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, she's scary.
It's so cool. Like I was like, "Oh my God." It's so neat to see something you experience like say 20 years ago and you're a fan and you're only a fan of this thing. Or you think you're the only fan of this thing, and then as time it grows, the popularity in pop culture it has grown with Evil Dead, with Army of Darkness, and now it's to the point that a lot of those people that were exposed to it probably work for Disney. They know they want to hire Sam Raimi for this project with Doctor Strange. They want him to put his thumbprint on it a little bit more than the car that he did in Spider-Man or Bruce Campbell as he did in Spider-Man. They want the creative thumbprint of Sam Raimi on this.
Yeah, and it's kind of like here, and this is my favorite thing about art of like when you support an artist, are you like an art is a very vague statement, right? So art is not just what you could physically put on pieces of paper and pen or what you can create with your hands. Art is craft beer. Art is pro wrestling. Art, there's so many
Oh my
aspects of how
God,
you
yeah.
podcasting.
Art,
This is my form
sports,
of art. The way
anything.
I'm
Yeah,
doing this review may not be like
absolutely.
everybody else's version, but it's my version of art. But
Hmm.
Sam Raimi's art is being portrayed so well through this guy in this movie, which is making me feel like I'm in an Evil Dead movie. And Sam and Bruce are involved in it, but it's still a different director, and he's still nailing that Evil Dead aspect. But there's
Hmm.
another really cool scene in the WandaVision that I thought was awesome. Now that we're on that,
Yeah.
is that when Wanda is kind of going through the house and she's seeing Wanda in a different reality with the kids, and she wishes that was her and she wants to replace that Wanda, she's almost watching it through the eyes of a deadite. Like she's
Hmm.
physically in the house. She's not physically in the house, but she's mentally in the house. And the way the camera moves around the staircase and she's watching,
Hmm.
but the other Wanda senses she's there was so
Yes.
Sam Raimi. And then there's a
Yes.
scene where the board creaks. And it's almost
Yeah.
like when Bruce was in the basement and he hears the creaks and he hears the
Yeah.
water and he hears the blood, like,
Yes.
and
It was
everything's
exactly
amplified.
like the cellar. I was
Yeah.
like,
I think they
just
even
this.
fill up a light bulb, don't they, in
Yes,
WandaVision?
they do. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they do. Yeah, it's so great that he's still doing those things, and he probably has people that are I would think encouraging that it's a wonderful thing to see that stand the test of time. You see it like we've seen it classically with Star Wars and George Lucas. It's funny how that all translates into the newer Disney projects that they've been doing.
Yeah,
But
it becomes a thing when Disney bought Marvel and they bought Star Wars, that they always try to throw a Star Wars reference where someone loses an arm. Losing an arm
mhm,
is like the Luke
yes,
Skywalker Easter
y-
egg in movies
yeah.
now.
Hmm.
Yeah. This is not pre-recorded, Chelsea, but thank you for stopping by and saying hi and giving us that view. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button over on YouTube. Real
Thank you,
quick
Chelsea.
too, the YouTube channel, not only did we get partnered, not only did we get monetized, but we hit 1,000 subscribers, which is
That is absolutely
has
wonderful.
been a goal of mine as a content creator for 6 years now. 6 channels, and 6 years later, I finally
Wow.
hit 1,000 subscribers. So we just have to get a couple
Congratulations.
more watch hours on the YouTube side. We
Mhm.
get to get we have to get 1,000 watch hours. And once we get the watch hours, anytime a commercial is played or they put an ad in one of my videos on YouTube, I get money. So
Sick.
so in a couple weeks when we hit that 1,000, so now you can do donations and super chats, and you can
Mhm.
join subscriptions, like a monthly thing for the channel. This is not a commercial. I'm just kind of talking here.
No, it's
Um,
fine.
the
Uh,
Once we get to another level of like hitting a subscribe button and hitting and watching something on a channel doesn't cost you anything, but we're getting to a point where people start watching on YouTube. I'm getting paid by YouTube because of your time that you're dedicating
mhm,
to watching my content, which is very exciting. And it probably won't change my life money wise, but it can help take care of some bills of like traveling or going and paying for
absolutely.
StreamYard. So it's really cool that we're finally hitting that point. And as a content creator, I've kind of felt like I've crossed that first hump, which is
It's like
very, very exciting.
any art form, any business, it's really it builds upon itself with every little piece. Like that's why the support is so crucial.
Yeah.
Whether it's you creating content and how you're doing it daily, and you're approaching it to get the views you need, or it's if I'm selling um, stuff up at a drive-in and somebody buys a sticker off me, everything counts. It
Yeah.
really does. It helps you put more that 3 more gallons of gas in the tank to get you to a show that maybe you might make a few more bucks, that might help you pay some bills. Like it really,
That's Mania weekend for me.
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
booked anything Mania weekend, but I'm going to network and just try to get my
sure,
name out there. And like Chubby says,
absolutely,
I told my
yeah,
friends about your channel and I hope they subscribe. Word of mouth helps
yeah,
out too. People letting people know that this is a thing is super dope. And I really, really
yeah,
appreciate it. But let's get back to Evil Dead
heck yeah,
Rises. So
okay,
the sister kind of starts putting things together. She sees her mom. Her mom's not her mom anymore. There's something weird about her eyes. There's something weird about the way she's doing it. And she looks at the brother and goes, "What the fuck did you do with that book?" Like, what? Like, and now there's a riff happening of anger and blaming and stuff like that. And Beth kind of comes in and says, "Yo, chill with that shit. Right now is not the time to blame people. We got to figure this shit out." And then she starts learning about the book. While she's learning about the book, the brother goes into the room with her and starts teaching her about the book and trying to figure out how they're going to do this. Let me just make sure I do this the proper way. The older sister's with the little girl. She's not feeling well. She has something on her face and she starts to feel strange. She excuses herself and goes into a different room and she starts cleaning out the cut. And the cut is starting to spider. Like you're starting to see the black infection of evil go through her whole face. She starts puking up maggots, blood, like black, thick, guttural blood is coming out of her nose, out of her mouth. She's fucked. 100%. This girl is now possessed. We're losing the first daughter now. So as this is going down, the oldest daughter is trying to figure herself out in the bathroom and what's going on. And the youngest daughter is sitting in the living room, but she hears her mother's voice in the hallway
outside the door
of the door. Still, but now it's her mother. It's not the screaming guttural, let me in.
Right.
Like it's not like so kind of like the original one. The outside of the apartment is the basement. So where the girl was trapped in the basement and she's like, I'm okay now. It's all right. Let me out. I'm fine. Like that's happening where she's telling the little girl like, daddy's here and everything's going to be fine. And she's like, mom, but you don't look like mommy anymore. And she's like, and she's singing her lullabies. And she tricks the little girl into unlocking the door. As she unlocks the door, the arm comes in, grabs the little girl. The other two come in the room to kind of pull her off and figure things out. And they get the door closed again. The mother's still trapped outside. But as this is going down, Bridget goes into the kitchen to see where the other girl is, and she's on top of the counter facing the wrong way and her head's cocked. So now as the viewer, you know, Bridget is turned into a demon. It's over. There's a fight that ensues. She's eating glass and there's blood pouring out of her mouth. So like the crazy thing about Evil Dead 2 is when the demon takes over your body, it's not taking care of your body. So like there's really no happy ending of when you get possessed that your body's going to make it back out okay, or that you're going to turn back to normal. Like the demons are like cutting you up. They're kind of like messing with other people by deforming themselves. They're very into dismemberment. Like dismemberment's a big Evil Dead thing. I think the only person who's ever transformed into a Deadite and then came back somewhat normal is Bruce Campbell.
Yep.
Like he's the only one that kind of flips back and forth.
And that's like still kind of like unexplained because I mean, Army of Darkness was crazy. I mean, Evil Dead 2, oh God, you know? Yeah, I think Bruce is.
Yeah. So
you've got to imagine that he's been working undercover as a covert Deadite this entire time.
Really, honestly, that's something to think about as an Evil Dead fan is like, how does Bruce figure this out? Because another thing, I won't get into it because I don't want to bury the lead here, but so as this fight's going down, there's another scene that kind of stands out in the movie. A cheese grater gets knocked down. The Deadite gets the cheese grater and starts taking it to the girl's leg. Crazy scene. She kicks the girl away, and at this point in time, she runs at the little girl who now has her stick with the doll head on it, and she's using the stick as like a weapon or protection, and the sister comes running out to get the little girl because it seems like the demons are really trying to get the little girl more than anybody. Like it's like almost like she's so pure, and as she does it, Bridget's runs through the stick. It goes through her mouth, out the back of her head, and she kind of stands there for a second. She pulls it out, and she's like, and then just dies. She lays down. She's dead. Or is she? So another crazy thing here about Evil Dead zombies is if you inflict enough damage to them that would normally take out a human, like you hit them really hard in the head, you can knock them out. Like they still have some type of human element where if the brain is damaged, there's still like, or it takes them a little bit to rejuvenate or to kind of come back to their senses. But the only way you could really, really kill them is complete dismemberment or burning them to the point where there's no physical body left. And once again, I think we're kind of bearing the lead. But if you're an Evil Dead fan, you're aware of all this. But in the movie, they don't. So Beth tells the kid, he goes, we need to figure out what's going on in these vinyls. And she says, he goes, listen, I don't know if we should play these vinyls because that's how this started, this whole thing. And she goes, there's no other way. We have to learn more about this. So they put they put the third vinyl on, and Beth does something that doesn't happen in the Evil Dead franchise. She listens with headphones on. And she says, if I put headphones on, it's not going to project out to everyone else. So if something were to happen, it's only going to happen to me because my ears are the only one hearing it. And I thought that was a cool addition to the Evil Dead, because that's never been done in at least in my eyes. It hasn't been done like that.
Oh yeah.
But she listens to the recording,
trying to find a workaround.
Yes. So she listens to the recording, and in this recording, they're like, listen, we've tried dismemberment. We've tried everything. Even if they're dismembered, they will still keep coming, and they will still psychologically mess with you. Like she's like, we decapitated one, and it's still talking to us and driving us absolutely insane. Broadcast, podcast, and gaming. Thanks for stopping by for our movie review of Evil Dead. Appreciate that. Make sure you guys go check out Broadcast, podcast, and gaming on their channel as well. We appreciate you stopping through. And they're like, we tried setting them on fire. That seems to be the only thing that's really working. But as of right now, the only thing that we know is fucking run. And as she's listening to this, the demon outside she senses that the little girl, the one girl's dead, or she's knocked out. And then she kind of hears above her the cat in the vents. And she looks up at the vent, and she goes up into the vent. And now she finds her way back into the apartment via the vent system. So as she's listening to this, she turns, and her sister's back in the house. And as she's back in the house going after the sister, Bridget, who is now dead, they wrapped her in a blanket and they tied her up, and they just said, just in case. So the brother and the little sister are kind of exploring the apartment, trying to figure things out. And Bridget comes back. So now there's two demons in this apartment, and both people are separated. So it's the oldest brother and little girl, and then the oldest sister. Bridget attacks the brother in the kitchen. They fight. They have a whole thing. He gets stabbed in the neck. He's stabbed in the chest. She's like stabbing the shit out of him. He takes the fire still lit in the kitchen. He takes like a spray can and sprays his sister, lighting her on fire. And she's like, now once again, like out of it, or dead or hurt on the floor. She's out of the fight. The sister kind of hits the other sister in the head, knocks her out. She runs in to find the I believe his name is Ben, but he's like just grasping onto air, and he eventually dies. The little girl is hiding underneath the coffee table. The other demon of Ellie comes back in and starts fighting her sister Beth. The little girl slides the scissors in. So here comes scissors. She takes the scissors. She stabs Ellie through the mouth, on the roof of the mouth. So the scissors are open, and one scissor's out and like through the nose, and the other set of the scissors is through the roof of her mouth. It's a crazy scene. It's enough for them to get out of the apartment and go into the hallway, because they're now going to try to break into that apartment to go down the fire escape to get out of here. They go into the hallway. They start working their way out. Ellie kind of regains herself. She kind of comes to. She comes out. There's a whole battle going on. But now the rest of the bodies in the hallway are starting to come to life. They're all starting to become demons. The two kids come out of the room. They run. They trap themselves in the elevator. And they get the doors closed, but it's not going up or down, and they're kind of just stuck. And all the demons are like screaming at them, and stuff's going nuts. But as they're doing this, all the demons are kind of ripping apart Ellie and like ripping her stomach open and kind of like going inside with their arms. And it's like this weird scene that you don't really know, because it's something you haven't really seen yet in an Evil Dead movie. But as this is happening, the elevator starts filling up with blood. So it's flooding. And they're getting to the point where like they're stuck. And as they see like the one opening in the ceiling that they can get out, arms of the rest of the deadites are coming through, so they can't even go out the only way. They're stuck. And they're gonna drown in an elevator covered in blood. And you hear like creaking, and then the camera cuts to a max capacity weight of the elevator. It kind of shows like the elevator can't handle this weight. And then it cuts to a scene on the bottom floor, and the elevator just drops.
Oh,
doors open, full shining.
Bro,
blood
awesome.
everywhere. Awesome scene.
That is awesome.
Super dope scene. Beth kind of comes to first. The little girl looks like she's drowned. She kind of coughs and she gets her out and she looks at her and she kind of comes to and she's like, "Am I dead?" She goes, "Not yet. We got to get the fuck out of here." So they run to the parking garage. They get in the car. Everything's good. They start opening the gate to drive away. The gate opens. They go to take off in the car. The car gets stuck in one of the holes from the shatter effect of the earthquake. So now the car's out of play. But as this is happening, the gate is still open, but now the Deadites are coming into the parking garage. And at this point in time, you don't know if it's every single neighbor, if it's Ellie and the other two. So like they are outnumbered. And this is where the movie kind of loses me. And if you're still watching this live, I need you to tell me co-sign this or maybe not. This is the only part of the movie I didn't like, but I know why they did it. As they show, there's like this one giant creature crawling at them, but it's essentially all the zombies have morphed into one zombie. So they're one giant zombie creature. I hated it. It's the only part of the movie I was like, I fucking hate this. They've never done this. They did it in Army of Darkness, didn't they?
Isn't it that like a Resident Evil thing?
I don't know. I hated it. I'm going to be honest. This is the only part of the movie I didn't like. And I understand it from a booking standpoint. And when I say that, I mean from a wrestling standpoint.
Yeah.
It's a girl who's pregnant. Her legs fucked up. Her arms fucked up. She can't do really much to defend herself. And this little tiny girl, right? And she can't fight now 7 Deadites by herself.
Right.
So I think the only way they can logistically do it is if they morph them all to one, and it kind of doesn't let the creature move as fast, and it makes it more lumbering, and it's easy for her to take out everything at one time than trying to fight everything at once, if that makes sense. That's the only way I can justify it, but I hate it. As she's kind of circling around the car, they're circling around the car, they go to take off for the gate. They run to the gate, they get under the gate, and the gate closes. But right before the gate closes, it grabs the littlest girl and pulls her back under. Gate closes. Now this giant morph has the youngest little girl, and they have found a chainsaw. It's Evil Dead. We had a shotgun upstairs. The shotgun actually, when the fight happened in the hallway and all the neighbors were coming back, she takes the shotgun and she blows off Ellie's arm, blows off Ellie's leg. So I'm guessing that the other Deadites were trying to rebuild her by being her other leg and her other thing, but it was a mess. I didn't like it. But so we had our shotgun, we have our sharp objects, we have our gore. Now we have our Evil Dead chainsaw. Beth is able to break through the grate to get back in to save the little girl. Once again, a big fight happens, and they're stuck on a point where the wood chipper has been turned on, and the Deadites are about to throw Beth into the thing. The little girl turns it off. The Deadites look to see what's going on. Beth breaks free for a second, grabs the chainsaw, and starts chainsawing the fucking creature. And as she does it, she tells Beth the little girl to turn back on the cheese grater, the wood chipper. She's chainsawing the creature into the wood chipper, which is just raining blood all over this entire parking garage. They eventually get the entire thing into the wood chipper, leaves one head. The head's still talking shit. She kicks the head into the chipper. So now this beast is completely gone. They've chopped it up to 1,000,000 pieces. And they kind of leave, and that's kind of the end of the movie when it comes to how they escape this nightmare. But the entire time they're also doing this, the Deadites keep saying, "Dead by dawn, you'll be dead by dawn." So another Evil Dead trope here is, it seems like if you make it to the morning, you're fine. Like the demons can't operate within daytime hours or something. I don't know. So that was kind of one thing that kind of they were kind of putting in there, but they didn't really get to it because it didn't get really to a point where they had to get to a point where daylight was something they needed, because they were able to destroy the entire thing. It zooms in at the very end back to the car, to a keychain of all of them at an amusement park riding a roller coaster. Scene cuts, everything's over, or we think. It shows a girl leaving her apartment and going into the parking structure, and she's on her phone with her friend saying, "Hey, I'll be right there. I'm heading up to the lake. I barely got any fucking sleep. I feel like shit. It was so loud in this apartment last night. I don't know if it was the earthquake or what was going on. And she's in the parking garage and she's not paying attention, goes to get in her car and turns and looks and just sees blood and guts and a car stuck and just mayhem in this parking garage. She walks to the middle. She screams because she sees chunks of everything everywhere. And then cue the camera shot of the evil creature, the unseen creature, charges at her, growls, she screams, end of movie. So the girl in the first scene at the cabin is now the girl. She brings the evil from the apartment now back to the woods. So the only thing that happens if they're going to continue this movie is the woods people don't have a Necronomicon, or they don't have any records that tell them what's going on. So now evil is essentially in the world, and it's in the woods now and not contained to this apartment building.
Huh. That is interesting. Well,
yeah.
Have they said they're going to make an Evil Dead Rise 2 or a sequel to this?
They are in the works of another Evil Dead movie, but I don't think any like scenarios or what it may be is really discussed. Is Sam Raimi taking it over? Is this director going to do it again? But I think they did say they are down to making the universe stay alive. But this movie was essentially its own standalone Evil Dead movie. It took all of the elements of Evil Dead, but it didn't have the Bruce story. It didn't have the Mia story from the remake. It didn't do, but it had enough Easter eggs to make you feel like you were in an Evil Dead movie. I will say this, overall encompassing of the movie, and you guys let me know as well in the chat, I fucking loved it. I loved this movie. I thought it scratched every itch that you need to be an Evil Dead film. It added some new elements besides the giant mutation, giant demon, monster, deadite. That's the only downside for me, but it happened so quick it didn't ruin everything else for me. I generally loved this movie. I think it fits the Evil Dead franchise, the narrative. I just there hasn't been a stinker for me yet as an Evil Dead fan. And going from a horror comedy to now these remakes being more serious and gruesome and gory, I'm totally down. Let me know in the chat as well if you really thought about it as well. I agree. I wasn't a fan of it being an apartment, but I thought they did a good job of keeping it real and realistic, but still staying in the confines of an apartment, which is not easy to do in that setting if you're gonna. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like Jason Goes to Manhattan. You're like, well, how is he around millions of people? And and they find creative ways to keep Jason kind of at bay. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting, the fisheye lens scene that you were talking about. Definitely like the cats, the cat getting in the vent, and then that's how mom knows how to get back in the apartment. Like,
yeah, a lot of cool Easter eggs during the dialogue. If you were paying attention, will set up to why they do things later on. And I think that was kind of cool how they did that. They breadcrumbed you a lot in this movie.
I personally hope that this leads to an Evil Dead Jersey Shore, and that we see
Evil Dead goes to space. You have to go to space.
No, just Jersey Shore, and they go to clubs and like there's deadites there and they slaughter thousands of people. That would be cool.
You know what movie I really enjoyed? I know it's kind of off topic, but did you see Zack Snyder's latest zombie movie where it's like a contained Las Vegas, where the zombie apocalypse is contained inside Las Vegas, and they do like missions to try to go in there and get money out?
I believe, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they shot scenes for that at the Showboat down in Atlantic City.
They did
during the
my
lockdown.
buddy Nikolai is one of the extras. He actually played a zombie in that movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
But imagine like a contained area where deadites are just kind of there, and then people try
I like
to go
that movie.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I like that Zack Snyder. What was it called? Whatever.
Dawn of the Dead. Oh, no, not Dawn of the Dead.
No, it was
Army of the Dead, or
something like that. Whatever it was a very cliche Netflix zombie movie, but it was good.
It was good. It was Zack Snyder can make a good, like, he redid Dawn of the Dead and did a decent job with it.
Yeah.
And he created almost like a new version of zombies, of creating the rending zombie. And in this version, and I know we're way off topic when it comes to Evil Dead, but in this version of zombie movies, he kind of makes zombies have like a structure system. Like there's zombies that are like really decayed and old and dying, and like that's your slow zombies. And then there's your fresh zombies that are your runners. And then you have like the head zombie who can control all of the other zombies. So it kind of adds another element of zombies became structured and civilized almost.
Yes.
And that
He's
added a new element to the zombie that wasn't really there before.
Well, very much building on what George Romero did with oh geez, is it Day of the Dead?
Day
No,
of the Dead.
not Day of the Dead. The newest one, Land of the Dead, excuse me.
Yes. So we're zombies
Very
kind of
like I never thought of that. Let's like because Land of the Dead, it was that parallel too, where they were in Pittsburgh. They had everything quarantined or sectioned off by the river. And then the zombies became super intelligent and knew how to use firearms.
Yeah. Or almost it was like they remembered residual things enough to like
Yes.
if the one zombie, if the zombie was like a gas station attendant, the zombie would just stand at the gas station and
That
just
was
like
that actor's name is Eugene Clark, and it's so like when I watch that, I'm like, for like until he finds that machine gun, he like picks things up and he's like, "Arr!"
he's
It's
like
like
a caveman.
yeah, very like it's like sad, but it's like you can laugh at it. It's okay.
Absolutely. Sierra says in the chat, I want to do a podcast, I think she said.
Oh, cool.
Where was it at? I'm sorry. I'm not skipping over what you're saying. I'm just trying to I'd be down for a podcast. Not sure how it works. If you have a computer with a camera or even a laptop with a built-in camera and a microphone and a pair, like usually laptops have a built-in microphone on it and a pair of headphones, we can work it out, see what your setup looks like or how we could do it. And if there's a movie you're interested in that you want to do, I'd love to have you, Sierra. I'm kind of at a point now with my content where I do a lot of interviews and I interview a lot of independent wrestlers, but I've been doing that for so long that I feel like it's really hard to grow talking to independent talent, and to make that my only base of content is not helping me grow. So I think these movie reviews and bringing in pop culture stuff that's not so much listen, I get wrestling is not for everybody. And we need to find other things to broaden that. And I think the idea of ABJ podcast is everything I'm into. So I make it for me. I'm making content for myself. And if people like it, cool. We're like-minded people. Let's grow together. But I'm down to have more people do movie reviews. I think movie reviews are going to kind of more or less become the trend of the podcast going forward. I think also this is the first time I'm actually saying this out loud is there's elements of the podcast I'm going to do soon in the future where it's going to be like, I'm going to come up with a topic like struggling with depression or struggling with something and just kind of like talk. Cause at the end of the day, like I'm making myself the brand that I want to be. I'm inspired by the Howard Sterns and the Kevin Smiths of the world. And sometimes when they were their most vulnerable and the most open, that's what made them relatable.
And like quite honestly, we probably know a lot more people than you think that are qualified and experienced to have a professional conversation about those things.
Yeah.
So, and that the things that I listen to, occasionally, I mean, I listen to a Lex Friedman podcast just because he has a lot of people that are thinkers on there. But he has doctors that talk about things like that, and those are things that that you could touch on that we all go through, that we need to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm very open to have really any conversation on this podcast. I'm never putting myself in a box of you're just a wrestling content guy or you're just a horror movie guy. I'm open to anything. If someone has a story or something they've been through or an experience, you're welcome to come on. If you don't want to talk about yourself personally and you just want to talk about, Butt Boy the movie, Courtney, I'm looking at you. We can do that as well. This is it's a very open platform that I want to come on. And if you are a small business or if you are something, but maybe you're not the best at promoting your business, come on for 20 seconds, 30 seconds. We talk about your small business and then we review a movie. So enough people now know what horror prints are. And then Chuck came and talked about a movie with me. So there's creative ways that we can promote people and have people go out there. And even if you don't have a small business, maybe you want to support a friend's small business and maybe your interview will have a small thing of like, I'm really passionate about this person. You should go show them love. And that's my plug for the episode. But I'm here because I like talking movies. So there's a lot of different aspects and avenues we can go. So we talked about the Warriors, how that's going to be an upcoming thing with myself and you. We're going to do a Warriors movie. We also talked about another horror movie that we can kind of tell you guys now. So Chuck will be back in the future. So kind of like Courtney, we talked about. Courtney will be back for Terrifier 2, but Chuck will be back in Not Cool in High School. And we're going to do one by one, going through the franchise, the Hatchet franchise.
Yeah.
I love the Hatchet franchise, and when he said that, I've only seen the first 2. There's like 4, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of the ones past that, so I am so pumped for that.
Wonderful.
So we're gonna do Hatchet, and we're gonna do the Warriors. Also on Tuesday, I'll kind of drop this one. Go ahead.
Can I just ask you real quick while I'm thinking of it? So Adam Green did the Hatchet film series.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of a movie that he did called Frozen?
No. Oh, is that where they're on the ski lift? So good. So good.
Oh God. Oh God. That's a good movie to do a watch along to too. That would be a good winter one for the winter.
Oh yes. See, I'm still trying to find so I need to know, as listeners or people tuning into this, do you like the scene by scene breakdowns, or how would is this something you're into, or should I find a new format? Because I'm still trying to teeter-totter.
I think it's a good format. I have 2 friends that also do a similar podcast in a similar format. I think they might cut scenes in, but I think you could stay away from that for right now.
Yeah, well, I'm also monetized, and I don't want to risk losing monetization by using copyrighted stuff.
I wouldn't either.
Like, all of my music on the podcast is created by Billy Trey. Like, everything about this is
Billy Trey.
Billy Trey, we love you. Alex, I appreciate this. It's a good and effective format, so I like that.
Yes, Alex is correct.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate that. I appreciate that feedback. Listen, feedback helps so much for people like me that are still small creators. Listen, our last episode with Courtney over on the YouTube side has over 360 plays. Some of my interviews don't even get that kind. Like, I've interviewed people who have been on TV as professional wrestlers and barely break 100 plays. And me and Courtney talking about Terrifier got 360. So we're finding our niche. Like, YouTube is putting us in the right places. And I think if you're a pro wrestling fan, it kind of goes hand in hand with pop culture. Like, most wrestling fans also love all things pop culture. So that's a lot of fun, as well as
most pop culture fans have spent time in wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most Americans growing up, you spent some time with wrestling. Whether it was you watched it for a year or 2, or you had that one friend. Hey, there you go.
Like me and talking Anthony, your ear off about wrestling.
Yes, ad nauseum, and we don't care what your opinion is, and that you're going to tell us that it's fake, and we don't care. We don't care.
We don't care. We know it's fake, and we love it.
Yes. Existence is fake.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
I wish
reality is false.
They're like, did you hear there's another war? I'm like, bro, I don't care. It's Mania weekend. Don't tell me, unless it affects Mania weekend. I don't care what's happening in the world. I need my escape, and that's my pop culture. That's my pro wrestling.
Just there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having an escape that you need to tap into. We all do it. We all go through ups and downs, and it's important to have those things. And so don't feel guilty for that ever.
Yeah. So we do have some more content coming up. I do have an interview on Thursday, which I'm very, very excited for. So actually, before we get into Thursday, if you're bored and want to hang out and you're sitting at home and you're watching AEW Dynamite or Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, whether Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, I'm always doing watch along. So tomorrow we'll be watching the ABJ podcast hangout. We'll be hanging out watching Dynamite, where we stream the entire Dynamite, and people are able to join in and tell me what they thought of the show, and we kind of bullshit and hang out. And sometimes we don't just talk about the wrestling that's on TV. We talk horror movies. It's this open form conversation. It's essentially sitting in a room with your friends. There's something on TV we're all joint watching, but the conversation, it's kind of like what we were at Pilguru. I try to recreate that, where we're having a beer. Wrestling's on, but we might be talking about something completely different than what's there. And they're like, oh, by the way, that match was kind of cool. Did you think that match was good? Cool. Anyway, Evil Dead. You know what I mean?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Can I ask you a question that I was trying to ask you last week in the wrestling chat? Because I jump in on Mondays or Wednesdays when I can. What do you think about Masha Slamovich and Shayna Baszler?
Shayna Baszler. It's probably my most anticipated match this weekend.
I get goosebumps even saying it right now.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I love both of them.
How about Nick Nemeth, Speedball Mike Bailey?
I know. And then like an hour and a half later, Speedball is fighting RVD.
Yeah,
Ah!
it's
Oh my God!
Mania
What
Weekend's gonna
kind of?
be
Oh,
amazing.
I am so excited. I have waited for this for year and a half at least, and obviously I didn't know I didn't know what was gonna happen, but all these companies converging on our city, and I say our city because Philadelphia is our city.
Yeah, we're
Close
not
enough.
from
We
we're for
go
PA,
there,
but we claim Philly
whatever.
more than we claim
It
Pittsburgh.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Pittsburgh's all
Nothing wrong
right.
with
It's good.
Pittsburgh, but
No, it's all right.
Pittsburgh's the home of
But
the zombie, baby. We love you
yeah,
too,
it
Pittsburgh.
is. It
You
is.
know,
I was just there a day and a half ago.
I have never been to the mall. I want to go to the
Yeah,
mall so bad.
if you would like to go, I know that they are having. I might help a friend vend in June. So I'll keep you in the loop on that
Please,
because they are
I have
doing.
no. I am literally stuck in my house with no car, no
Yes,
job, and I'm struggling.
like you
If
can.
you can get me out of the house for a day, I will 100%
Yes,
go and work and help you out.
yes, and but my friend Christian, I talked to him this weekend. He works for a company, Paul Bearer Press, out of Texas. They are vending a show out there that's actually a horror show, zombie themed show that's going to be in the mall in Monroeville. So
I
it's
need to be
pretty
there.
dope. Yeah,
So
and they'll have.
I went to Pittsburgh one time to go see Steel Panther, and on the way home, I was like, "We're stopping at the mall. We're stopping at the mall." I pull into the parking lot. I'm like, "It's empty. What the hell's happening?" I go up to the doors. And it says mall is closed for Easter Sunday. I go, "Damn you, Jesus! I didn't even know today was Easter weekend, and I can't even get the first time ever being in the mall, and I'm looking at it through the door. I felt like a zombie. I was trapped
Are
outside.
you a fan of the original Night of the Living Dead?
Am I a fan of Night of the Living Dead?
Hell yeah!
I am
So
a fan of George Romero.
okay.
Yo,
So
hold on
there
real quick.
is.
Every lunchbox, what is the best thing to have when you have the
Mhm.
lunchbox? What has to
Thermos.
come with it?
You need a thermos. You need that thermos, baby.
It's got the thermos.
Oh! Does that glow in the dark? It looks like it should glow in
Yes,
the
I think
dark.
it's a glow.
Yes!
I believe it's glow in the dark.
Who made that? Fright Rags?
Fright rags, yeah. And then they
Yeah.
also made they look like. Sorry, I'm making a lot of noise here. They made like D&D looking figures,
Yeah,
like little
I have
fake.
that.
I have
have
that
that.
collection too, and you got the glow in the
Yeah.
dark George Romero. It came with that
Yep.
that lunchbox, and that came
Yeah,
out at the same time.
I had to have it. So funny enough, I'm friends with those guys. I saw them on Saturday when I was out at Horror Hound. This is the first time in like 3 years, I
I
think,
love
or
Ben.
2
He's so
years
nice.
since I saw Ben and Chris Tansky, and they're just great guys. They're honest guys. They do it for the love of everything. They are a large reason I got into doing horror prints because I saw them at Monster Mania in 2005, I think it was, and I was like, these shirts are wild. And their first design I remember seeing, they had WWJD. What
What
would
would
Jason
Jason do?
do? And
Yep.
that was Ben's idea, and that skyrocketed, and they met
I
Jeff
probably
Zarno.
own I probably own 60 horror
Oh,
Fright Rag t-shirts. I own a
that's sick,
lot of
dude.
Fright Rag. That's one of the things that I'm bummed the most about not having an
Yeah,
income or a job, because like I get an email like this new shirt's out. I'm like,
yeah,
and then once their shirts are gone, they're kind of gone. Like,
yeah. They don't
yeah, it's
reprint
tough.
very many.
I
They don't
actually don't
reprint
even look
very
at the
many.
website anymore because it's depressing. Like they're like new Elvira, and I was like, I don't even want to look
Yeah,
at it. I don't want to know anything
I
about it.
I was so I was at their table talking to them on Saturday, and they have these plastic cups which they've been doing the past few years, like
Yep.
the throwback to the old plastic cups we had as kids that you used to get from Burger King or
And they're
whatever.
big cups, and I'm someone who
Yes,
drinks a lot, so I need the bigger cup.
me too. I love a big cup of water. So they're $5, and they're $5 a piece, and they had one original Halloween cup left, and I was like, it's mine. I gotta have that.
Yeah.
Because but they're always very much like me, trying to make the things that you dream of, that you
Yeah.
want to produce and have out there in the world, and that when people see it, they have to have it.
There's
That's
two
the
things of
dream.
yours that I still want to own besides the print. That I've actually three, I think.
What are
Uh,
those?
I never had the money to do it, and now it's even worse. But I always loved your Critters toys, like the
Oh,
Critters. I love the
yes.
Abdul the Butcher one, and you made Leprechaun as well, right?
Yes, there's a test print critter that I have here. I don't have any leprechauns around me at the moment, but yeah,
I love those things
that's
that you make. They're really cool.
thank you very
Critters is
much.
a good movie. I love,
It
dude.
is.
The latest Critters was not
Yeah.
bad.
No, no, I'm a big fan of them just keep making Critter movies, but
Yeah, Critter
that
can
is
never go away.
I will say that is not the last Critters thing that I have in the can. That is maybe the fourth Critters thing I've produced. I've produced like two pieces of artwork, and then I produced an enamel pin that had glowing eyes, like flashing eyes, with a company from Texas. That was a really interesting thing. I'll have to show you that sometime. Bring it out. There,
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like it's hard, like you were saying with Ben and Fright Rags, you have to do things on a limited run. I can't order 1,000 Critters pins and sit on those. Like that's a like it. The production on that took probably 6 months because you got to work with a company in Mexico that can produce the enamel pin, sends it to another factory that can produce the circuitry and lights and assemble it, and then you get it.
yeah.
And
I do like how
so
you're taking your prints and you're putting them on digital websites so you can get it on a
yes,
T-shirt or a pin
yes,
or something like you have a TeePublic, you have your
yes,
website. Everything is
yep,
below, but there is ways you could support Charles with his amazing art. Like I
yeah.
said, I'm a huge fan of it. I don't know where all
Well, I
my
thank
stuff
you
just
very
went.
much, dude. I always appreciate the art and the love that you give, not just me, but other creators in this space. I think it's a wonderful thing.
So
Um,
this wall behind me eventually is going to be all like art that I'm going to hang up,
yeah,
and I'm still trying to find a frame for my Exorcist one that you did.
okay,
It's
yeah,
so I love it so much.
on the whole foil paper.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I will have to. I'll have to find a web. I have a website that you can order a custom frame pretty cheap. I'll have to look that up and send it to you.
Perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to plug or talk about before we get out of here?
Well, just if you're interested in keeping up with what I have going on, horror prints dot or excuse me, horror prints on Instagram is the easiest way. Horrorprints.com. I have kind of some of my portfolio on there. I have to do a an an update to it so I can kind of get more of my store in there. But if you looked on my Instagram, you'll be able to find a link to my big cartel with any available products. And as I said, the Instagram is always what I'm working on. You could see in my stories or reels or whatever, any sculptures. Currently working on a line of independent wrestling figures for some wrestlers that I'm hoping will be ready for around the summer to begin releasing them. So
Independent wrestlers.
yes, yes, for John Wayne Murdoch, Alex Colon, and Matt Tremont. That's an
Oh,
exclusive.
you're making a Matt Tremont figure?
Oh yes. Oh
Please, for the
yes.
love of God, I know I'm broke, a broke bitch. Just save me one.
I
I'll give you the
will. I
money for
will.
just. I
I
love Matt
absolutely
Tremont.
will. I do
Yeah,
too. I
I'm
love
trying
Matt
to
very much.
find. I'm trying to find this um thing that we made, and I cannot find it, and it's bothering me now. Is it under this? No. Shit. Well, shit. But yeah, so real quick, while I'm still kind of looking here, if you're
Uh-huh.
into old wrestling that she was saying earlier, one of the cool things we do is the tornado tag. We do a little bit of it at the
Mhm.
beginning of the episode of talking about what's modern in professional wrestling, and then
Okay.
Brian takes us on this adventure of old school wrestling talk. So if you like hearing the old school stuff, I think we scratch a really cool nostalgia itch for our wrestling podcast. The
Cool.
last one of the month that we're going to do is going to be the history of Dusty Rhodes. So we're going to be talking all things
Ooh.
Dusty Rhodes on Sunday.
There he is.
And then on Thursday, we'll be live with Dante James, a content creator out of the Luzerne County area. They have over
Nice hair.
611,000 followers on social media.
Wow.
They're mega stars, and they're very, very entertaining. I'm a very big fan of their content.
Dante has a nice head of hair.
Oh, beautiful hair. And they do hair flips when they dance, and it's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I am gonna have to check that out.
Yes, Dante kills it. But one of the things that we did, so if you see the bottom, that Evil Dead font right there, in conjunction with myself and Witchcrafts by Lily, who helps me make all of my cool logos and helps make a lot of the cool art and logo spoofs that I try to do all the time because I love spoofs. I'm a big spoof guy. We made for Charles here his own horror prints with the
Hell
Evil Dead
yeah.
font. So that we made that for him. He's gonna if he wants to use it, he can. If he doesn't, we get it. But it's available for him to use, as well as I know we didn't talk about it on the episode, but it is going to be given to her as well. But Courtney also got her own little Creepsy
nice. Very
logo,
nice.
which I'm looking for as we speak. Where are you? Where are you, old Creepsy? Here it is. So she got her own Creepsy for her business, and because she did Terrifier, which, fun fact, the Terrifier font was actually used in another horror movie.
Oh yeah?
It's the same font as Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That makes sense.
Yep. So there's the Creepsy Terrifier. Oh, there he is. There's a little Art the Clown.
Yes.
So one of the bits will be when you get on the show and you come do a guest spot, you will have your own logo that will be given to you as well, whether it be your name or your business or whatever it may be. So yeah, hit us up. We are excited to do more. We do have some cool movies coming up. You're going to see Courtney and Chuck as repeat guests more often, but I really appreciate all the support and love you've been giving me. If you're watching over on the Facebook or the YouTube side, if you can, make an account over on YouTube, hit me up with a subscribe over there, watch some repeats of old content. All the links to support Charles, Chuck, Horror Prince, or myself are all linked below. So you can check all those links out and go support and follow us on social media and support your local small little creep shows. You know what I mean? Our little weird boys, and girls out there. All right, we'll see you next time. Here's some music by the Converse Kid. We're out of here.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for watching this presentation. Like, share, and subscribe for more.